What's up, y'all? How's it going? Wow. Episode 45. We here. Last episode of Be Great, Good2Great Series. Wow. Texting Kwame real quick. What's up, y'all? Happy Sunday. I know it's dreary here in Chicago. Hopefully, wherever y'all at, it's not as bad. There we go. Now let's get it cracking. I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited for Kwame, and I'm not excited for this to be over, though. For doing this every day at 5 p.m. It's going to be sad come tomorrow when it's 5 and I don't have to do this anymore. But I definitely got something special for y'all coming up, so please, please, please. Kwame, I'm pulling you in right now. What's up?
What's happening?
You got to turn your thing this
There we
way.
go.
Yeah.
Look, I'm out here like Teddy Riley. I ain't never did a live before.
No worries, man. No worries. You logged in now and it's only 5:02, so to me, you on time.
There we go.
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys for joining in so early and so soon. This is love right now. So thank you guys for joining the last episode of Be Great, Good2Great series where we're highlighting people and their journeys, how they got there, any tips and tricks they can give to you. And this is meant to be a very much so live Q&A. So if you have any questions for Kwame as we're going through this hour-long live, please drop it in the comments or in the question box, or if you wanted to show Kwame some love, feel free to put whatever you want in the box. So Kwame, I appreciate you coming on the live. Man, we haven't talked in a long time. And then I
Absolutely.
found out, and then I found out you live somewhere else now, but I'll let you go into that in a little bit. But can you give a little bit of a background about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Just the short overview. Um, I'm a healthcare leader. I'm the director of business operations at Mercy San Juan's, a hospital in Sacramento, and I'm the president and the CEO and founder of Mlezi Health. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about that.
That's awesome. So Kwame, I met you at SIU in Carbondale. Go Salukis.
Right?
That was a while back. So tell me, what were you majoring in, and then what got you into your career field?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, let me step back even before SIU, because a lot of people
Okay.
don't know I went to a different school before I got to SIU. So
Mhm.
started out. I'm from Chicago, well, Chicago area. I'm from Bellwood, and it was actually a funny story I was talking to one of my friends about, and with my mom. I played sports in high school, and I was on a wrestling team my freshman year. And before that, I had
Mhm.
no intention of going to college. And I made it to the freshman sophomore state championship tournament. And I just thought I was like the stuff and all this stuff. But I was doing like okay in school and getting in trouble.
Mhm.
And right before the tournament, I'm talking like 2 days before, my mom pulled me out and she was like, "Oh no, you're a student first." And I had to forfeit the tournament. And she really set the tone and made me think about going to college in general. And that really was like the foundational education piece that like prepared me for later when we met in college.
Mhm.
Um, so then I played football and I got a football scholarship to McKendree University, which is, maybe 2 hours from Carbondale. And
Mhm.
I was not ready. I was like academically prepared, but acting crazy, doing the most, and got kicked out. So I dropped out of school. And at the time, it felt like a curse, but it was a blessing because when I got home, I started a job as a janitor at Loyola, at a hospital
Mhm.
in Maywood, near where I grew up. So While I was there, I was working as a janitor. And what I started to do was I saw so many young people because it had a medical school, a pharmacy, nurse school, all that stuff. And I started to just during my lunch break, I would sit outside the cafeteria and I asked people, really anybody who was willing to sit down and talk to me, what do you do? What made you interested in what you're doing and all those things. And a lot of doctors and nurses and pharmacists, just all types of people would just sit down and have lunch with me and tell me about their careers and what they were trying to do. And I fell in love with healthcare. And one of the days, one of the nurse managers called me to her office, and I thought I was in trouble. But she had heard me asking questions to some of the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was in there, she just gave me the game. Like, how do you be a nurse? What are all the options? Ways to do it. So got right back into community college and just picked up some more jobs and luckily had some connections at St. Louis not St. Louis, at SIU from high school football and was able to get into the school. And that's all she wrote. That's when I met you. We were in Carbondale and I actually joined I also actually, before I selected nursing officially, I had considered jobs because it's come full circle now. I graduated high school in 2009, and that was during the last recession. So I started to think about jobs like what's recession proof. So, I broke it down to engineering, accounting, and nursing. And when I had that experience at the hospital, that just made it clear that nursing was my thing. And fast forward to SIU, great mentors. And I became the first Black male to graduate from the program at SIU. Just incredible experience.
Wow.
And I stopped there for now.
And what was that program called?
SIU?
Uh-huh.
It was the nursing school, the SIU School of Nursing. We are officially, the teachers worked at Edwardsville, but we were all Carbondale students.
What's up, Kalia? I want to read some of these comments too. What's up, Jamie? You got a comment saying people don't speak on the beginning of it all, the falls and hardships. Appreciate you sharing. Saluki pride.
Absolutely.
I love that. And so what made you graduate from the nursing school if there were no other Black males that graduated from there, right? Like most times people don't go against the flow.
Yeah. It was a lot of things. So I chose nursing before I really knew that would all happen. I didn't like go into it like, oh, I'm gonna be this. But when I got there, something that really helped, SIU has an incredible support system. So, in the classroom, I definitely had some trials and tribulations with my classmates and some of the professors, and especially when we talk about social justice and diversity in the classroom. But outside of the classrooms, president of Black Male Roundtable and part of the Black Student Union, and shout out to all the mentors, all the people that were involved in those, because I think that outside support was really transformational for me and really keeping me grounded and why I started this. And they might not necessarily be able to help you with a chemistry project, but they could give you all the love and support that you need to do well in it. And I had a ton of that.
Right.
One story with Dr. D, I had never met in person. I hadn't met Dr. D. I saw him talking at an event or something. And I'm like, something that I knew was important, because the first time I dropped out of school, I didn't have any guidance or mentors or anything. And neither one of my parents had gone to college. Actually, my mom graduated college with me. We class of 2014.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience. Shouts to her. I think I saw my auntie on here. She might be listening too. If she is, thank you. I love you. You already know. We've been through a lot together. So actually talking about her, I'm gonna get off topic a little bit, but I'll bring it back in a second.
Okay.
When I went to SIU, she wasn't in school, and actually me going to SIU prompted her to get into real estate because she actually moved out of her
Mm-hmm.
house and rented it out to make sure that I can afford to stay at SIU just in case anything I needed. So
Wow.
I most absolutely would not be here without her. It's definitely a team effort, to say the least. Um,
Wow.
but
That
with
is
Dr.
awesome.
Yeah, is she incredible, incredible. Most definitely wouldn't be here without her. So I appreciate her so much. Um, and Dr. D, I knew I needed a mentor. I knew like outside of the inside of the classroom, I could figure it out, but just really navigating, developing as a leader and as a man. I saw Dr. D and I'm just like, yeah, he's gonna be my mentor. So I set up a meeting with him. I actually no, I didn't. I found out where his office was in the student center or in the health center, and I set up a meeting right as the meeting was starting.
Mm.
And I just told him what I was doing and let him know, hey, I need a mentor. This is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me? And of course, he graciously obliged, and we just been close ever since. I used to every month would go to his office and tell him what my game plan was, like what am I gonna do next, what I'm thinking to really get his feedback, and that was just incredible and going through that experience.
I love that. We got a few comments too that came in from Mike_Wit. He said, "You're being modest. It starts with you. You work your butt off." And then I am that Dominique Harris said, "Hey, bro, so proud of you."
What up, sis?
And then we got
Uh,
my mom said, "Black mama love." Yeah, they hold us down for
that's
sure,
right,
all the
straight
time.
up, for real.
So, how did you go from graduating in nursing to where you are now in your career?
Yeah, sure. So I actually, even before I graduated, Dr. D told me actually, yeah, I could be a mentor here, but you need a mentor in what you do. So this time I actually did have to make an appointment to meet the chief nurse at the hospital in Marion. So I was working there I might have been a secretary at the time. I just wanted to get experience in the hospital while I was in school. So I got some time with her, Melissa Atkins. She's the CEO of that hospital now. She was chief nurse at the time. And just began to get her insight, just ask her, how did you become the chief nurse? And she was relatively young to be in that role. And, I just wanted to get her insight. And she helped me lay out a game plan and developing myself as a professional. So she got me a part of committees or gave me the opportunity to get a part of committees because a lot of people have different expectations for mentors. And one thing that I've learned is someone like her, for instance, she can give by her knowing what I want to do and me being able to show her and demonstrate that I'm really committed to it. She can help me get opportunities. She can open the door for them, but it's really up to us to actually, take advantage of them.
Hmm.
And she did that. And at the same time, by doing that, she helped me get into the emergency department, and that's why I met Teddy Harper. He was in the med prep program at SIU while I was finishing up nursing school too, and he was a scribe in the emergency room while I was a secretary.
Hmm.
And he was older, going back to school to be a doctor, and I had just questions about it, like what inspired you. He went to Morehouse. He had majored in biology. He worked for the CDC. Super smart guy. And from the outside looking in, you think like, oh yeah, like why would you go back to school? But it was something he'd always wanted to do and he was passionate about. And he shared a story with me from his late father. He said that if you're blessed to be alive, you are going to be here. So you should, if you can, especially pursue the things that you're passionate about, that make you happy, the things that you want to do. And now Teddy is looking back. That actually was one of the things that helped me make the final decision that I want to pursue law school. We'll talk about that. But it helped me make that determination to pursue law school. And looking back now, I'm a healthcare executive and he's a doctor. He's a resident at St. Louis U. So it was just that experience there in those conversations, really looking back, and it's only been about 5 years to see the transformation has been incredible.
Mm-hmm. And so what'd you do? So then what happened after that? So you just talked
Uh,
about getting your JD, right? So you left SIU and then where'd you go?
so I was a travel nurse. So that little hospital in Marion, incredible experience. If I recommend any healthcare professional, if I know the big names kind of make the lights glisten, but if you're in the clinical side, strongly suggest a small hospital because I got the chance to really literally get my hands dirty really early. So I was an ER
Mm-hmm.
nurse and we're like kind of in the middle of nowhere. So you have to do everything. I had to learn how to manage gunshot wounds, people falling off of motorcycles and pulling people out of cars and all those things. Because it's so small, you have to be really versatile.
Mm-hmm.
And so probably in an unprecedented fashion, in about 6 months, I went from new graduate to a trauma nurse just because I had gotten so many hours of trauma and was able to pass the class because I'd done so much of it already. Um, and then I became a travel nurse. Well, while I was there, I decided I wanted to go to law school. And talking to Melissa, she helped me understand that, and I saw that for the populations I want to help, minorities, particularly disenfranchised communities, I found that being a great clinician, a trauma nurse, it really felt like I was, and figuratively and um, I really felt like I was putting a band-aid on their issues. So I was this ER nurse at Christ, and at the time I was like 23, 24, I don't know. I think I was 23. I was a trauma nurse there. And people get shot all day in the summer. It was crazy. And I wanted to help the people who were getting shot. I wanted to help their families and all those things. But as a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
that's all I could do is just, patch them up and pass them on. But I felt like I knew that going into leadership, I would have a voice from someone from that community has a voice. So you see, even if you look at the hospitals, pick your city, any city. The majority of the time when you see Black and Latino communities, the health system is run by somebody that's not from there, doesn't look like them, has no association.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal was and it still is, to develop so that I can actually lead the change in those communities from a healthcare lens. Um,
Right.
and that's what inspired me to pursue law school and got into St. Louis University. Um, as soon as I got in, I knew that was the choice for me. Um, it was number one healthcare law school in the country, top 10 Master of Health Administration, just so many people that you get exposed to and can learn from. Um, but for anybody going to graduate schools, I can tell you right now, do not take the first offer. Even it's just like a job. If you get into a graduate school, law school, medical school, whatever, and you get a scholarship, I don't care what you say or how good it is. It could say full. Ask for some more. For me, that was the first time I actually tried it in that sense, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like a $30,000 email. I sent one email and got another 30,000. So
Wow.
do it. I tell anybody, make up a good reason. If you don't got a good reason, then write it without a good reason. Just definitely ask for more. um, so went to St. Louis. Shouts to St. Louis. I know Nelly let a lot of people down yesterday, but that doesn't take anything
Mm-hmm.
from the city.
His energy was good.
um, exactly right. He had the right energy. He should have asked some of us about the what he should play his playlist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I got there, and something you probably hearing as consistency. I always go seek mentors. Like as soon as I get to a place, as soon as I start thinking about going to a place, I seek out mentors and I make sure I'm available to be a mentor to other people. Um, so I got out there and I hit up every healthcare lawyer, professor, executive I could find. most is something I was actually surprised about because I didn't do it. Melissa had been at the time the only executive that I like reached out to, and I didn't expect
Mm-hmm.
so many people to do it. But at the time, the current president of Christian Hospital, Rick Stevens, I remember I emailed him, to have a call with him. He answered the phone. He a black dude. It's a hospital in North City, the busiest hospital in North City. And he's running a big place. He's really busy. He answers the phone like, "Yeah, I don't got that much time, but I got an internship for you, and you just tell me what you want to do, and I'll make it happen."
Mm.
And then I did the same thing with Rick Majan. He's the vice president of St. Louis Children's. Same thing. I met him at a reception, like a diversity reception. Same thing happened. So I really encourage people, whatever you're doing, even if you're good at it. Like I could say, yeah, I had good grades, I had good experience, but even if you're good at it, there are some people ahead of you that can either help you be better, or it might just confirm that that what you're doing is right. But either
Mm.
way, I strongly suggest mentors. While I was there, I joined this organization, the National Association of Health Service Executives. Shout out to everybody in NACI. Y'all,
Mm.
I wouldn't be where I am without them. Um, and they had this national conference every year. And it's like a family reunion for Black healthcare executives. It was created back during the Civil Rights Movement. The American ACHE, American College for Health Service Executives, wouldn't allow Black people to join it. So and before hospitals became integrated, there were about 500 Black hospitals. The only one still left now is
Wow.
Howard Hospital, but at the time there were hundreds of them. So those hospitals came together and created the National Association of Health Service Executives to make sure that we can share information and develop. Um, so I was at a conference my first year. I've been to the conference twice. Now I've been a few times, but my
Mm-hmm.
first year I went, I was a student and I needed a summer internship. And I remember at NACI, you have access to executives. I'm talking hospital presidents, CEOs, people you read in magazines and Forbes. They're there, available to you. So I didn't know this particular group. I just went over, sat down. We were talking about just policy. How I think one of the questions was, if you could change anything about healthcare, what would you do? And we talked about it, and I found out that I was talking to a lot of the executive team at Johns Hopkins,
Mm.
and soon after had my summer internship. Um, Shouts to Darren Brownlee for helping make that happen. Um, Great mentor and friend, and that was an amazing experience. Some of my closest friends. I think I saw some join in and share this post. Shouts to Cassandra for sharing this today. Just such an incredible experience there. Met one of my best friends, Rashad. We were actually in the basement. They didn't have enough offices for us in the main hospital,
Mm-hmm.
so they found something in the basement. And I'm sitting down there at my desk, and Rashad walked in like, "What you doing here?" I'm like, "What you doing here?" And we became cool just talking about our experience there. And so Nasi was incredible there. Then the next year, let's talk. I won't say specific names, but um, an experience for me that I like to share. Coming out of school, there are these they're called administrative fellowships, and it's basically um, a training program for new graduates who want to be executives in healthcare. So I went into I had interviewed for a bunch of them, got to see a lot of health systems, and I chose one. And I signed up. I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm going. And then I went to the conference, and the next year I was a part of a case competition, and some of the executive team for the company I'm at now were there, And they pulled me to the side and was like, we think you would be great for our fellowship. And, we just talked about it. And I told them, I already accepted one. And they're like, just come out, learn a bit about us. And maybe because the fellowship, usually a year long, that was a year long. So I got there and I went and visited, and great experience, but something that for me was important through a fellowship was the president of the system has to be involved, because that means you're getting the right exposure. To me, that's like really the point. So the president couldn't make it to the interviews, and he usually is, but he just didn't make it. So to me, that was a sign like, oh, well, I guess I'm not supposed to be here. And yeah, I wasn't going. And I had just told, I can't remember if it was my mom. I think I was on the phone with my mom. And I was telling her, she was asking, which one are you going to go to? And I just told her, no, I'm gonna stick with the first one because, the president isn't here. So, I'm gonna just go to the one where the president was there. And I kid you not, I'm in a hotel, my flight got delayed, and I am about to walk out. And I turn around, and the president of the health system standing behind me, waiting on his car. And I recognized him. He didn't, he had never met me. So I'm like, I introduced myself, like, sir, I applied for this. I just interviewed, blah, blah, blah. And he sat down, talked to me, gave me his number, and that's all she wrote. And it was just like, follow the signs, follow your gut. Comparatively, you never know what would have happened with the other one. But this is just, I've had an incredible experience, incredible growth opportunities that, it's just don't be afraid. It was so many people that were like, no, you don't do that just because it is and that and all those things. But definitely one of the best things I did for my career was follow my gut and do the thing that I felt inside was the best decision. And now I'm here. I love it. It's great.
And you said you're outside of Sacramento, right?
Yeah, in Carmichael. So yeah, right next to Sacramento.
You got a comment too that said, "Thanks for sharing this. We need more Black men like you who are reaching back."
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
again, if you guys have any questions for Kwame, feel free to put them in the comments bars or the question box thingy too. So it seems like Kwame, like, were you always like very outspoken and like driven and confident to just talk to leaders?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? It broke up for a second.
Yeah, you good. Were you just always so outspoken to talk to leaders? Like a lot of people are afraid to talk to the CEO or executives, right?
Yeah, no, I actually wasn't. I think when I dropped out of school the first time, so before I went to college, one of the best mentors I ever had, his name is Famous Holbert. He was my football coach in high school. And looking back, he was only like 25, 26. And he was telling us everything that's going to happen after you graduate. And he played football at U of I and had been a coach. He was an All-American. But he was from my neighborhood. So he could tell us, what is going to happen, what to expect in words that we understand. And when I went to college, I didn't have that the first time. So I felt like if I had to think back, what was the missing link? What did I do wrong? Or what was different about being there? And that was really the first time I was really unsuccessful at something like that. And, when I got back home, I realized, oh, I need that. That's mandatory for me to be great at what I do, and really be operate at the top of my abilities.
That's awesome.
So it's more so a need.
That's true, but I think a lot of people don't learn that until later on in life, right? And I think that's a big thing that you're talking about. You can go to school, you can get everything that you need, but you need to align yourself with mentors and people who can help pull you up and coach you.
Yeah, and you learn so much from them. I learned from you too. I remember you were the first person. Oh, shouts to Angela Bird talking about mentors and mentees. Angela and Brianna Lockridge. There's people that were stuck with me. So some people might know this. Before, when I found out Black students were going to SLU, Like they'll get all put on a Facebook group, and
Mm-hmm.
I would like something Dr. D used to tell me, you have to pay it forward. He's like, I spent all the time in the world with you, so you got to pay it forward. You got to pay it forward. And so I would look at and find people who are Black or might be, I don't know, or interested in healthcare or anything. And I would like introduce myself to them and like check on them and like force myself into their lives so that to make sure that they have a smooth transition or as smooth as possible into going to law school and developing their careers.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love that you have mentors. And it seems like even what you're talking about now, even like peer mentors, right? That is awesome.
Oh yeah. And you taught me, you were the first person to put it in this perspective. I don't remember how the conversation started, but you were like, you have to think about, and this is the time when I was picking jobs after I graduated, thinking about, what are you doing with your salary, where are you going to move, all those types of things. And you said something like, you know, you have to think about what you make after expenses. So if you make $100,000, but you spend 95 of it, then you really only made $5,000. And
Mm-hmm.
really, you explaining that and putting that in that perspective, and especially at the right time, made a huge difference in how I move forward. So thank you.
I appreciate that. You seem so passionate about healthcare. Like why are you so passionate about it? I know earlier you're talking about you don't see a lot of people just of our color there, and like we always catch it at the end when you were a trauma nurse, but why are you so passionate about healthcare?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was for me, first it started with I just enjoyed the people. So while I was a housekeeper, I enjoyed, so patients would ask us for like, water, blanket, things like that. And I really enjoy something where I can make a difference and I can
Mm-hmm.
excel on my own. So something about healthcare is it literally impacts your livelihood in our
Mm-hmm.
families. And being a nurse, especially in the emergency departments, um, I did two travel assignments, these two hospitals in Chicago. I won't name the hospitals. One of them was they were only about 5 miles apart, but one of them was in a community that was upper middle class, and one of them was in a poor community. And
Mm-hmm.
the difference was so stark. In the hospital that was in a poor community, I had gone there second, and there were people literally dying because they didn't have the resources and the leadership that they needed
Wow.
to really give them the true experience. And I got to see healthcare disparities in real time. And something I found that when I began to look at the landscape, there are lots of people that are representations of disenfranchised communities on the policy side or on the advocacy policy, those doing those things. But there are very, very few who are represent them on the business side. So, a big part of
Mm-hmm.
when I used to ask questions, I'm like, why is it that this hospital doesn't have the things that they have down the street? And something that was important I saw, they're like, well, resources. We don't have the money. We don't have the supplies. We don't have this and that. And my drive is really pushed by challenging that and finding the resources or restructuring the way the healthcare works, which is part of why I created my startup.
Mm-hmm.
Restructuring how healthcare works so that even the disenfranchised can have the same quality care.
I love
Yeah.
that. And can you tell the difference or tell people a quick like description between the difference of like the business side of healthcare and then like just I guess the other workers like a nurse or something else? Because most people from SIU are like, oh, Kwame and the nurse, and you're like, no, I'm on the business side now. So it's kind of a
Right.
difference.
Yeah, yeah. So something that so you have policy and clinical is probably what you see. So, nurses, doctors, you might see if people don't realize like WIC offices are part of healthcare, um, Medicare, Medicaid, and trying to make sure like homeless people get healthcare and those things are they tell us, they inform what we need to do or what is possible. So on the policy side, you could create a policy that says, like the Affordable Care Act should be able to get health care. But on the business side, you have to actually hire doctors so that they're available for those people. Or you need to create a business plan to build a clinic in this area. So the policy side, there's a lot of people who can show that, oh, you need more clinics here, you need more doctors here, but you need people on the business side to actually care enough to put doctors and clinics here. And that's where I come into play, where I'm going to leverage, my role is to leverage technology and other business operational processes to make sure that the disenfranchised can also have the same doctors and care and availability, accessibility that everyone else has.
We got also another comment and a question. So the comment was, Kwame's a stand-up guy, proud to call him a brother and a mentor to me. And then we got a question that says, are you a first responder even if you're on the business side?
No, I'm not. Now in the business side, I'm the director of business operations at the hospital. So my role is to lead nursing units, kind of, if you think about what a nurse manager might do. So nurses report to me. I make sure that they provide a high quality care, and make sure that my biggest role is making sure that the nurses who are, really talented and they know how to provide the care, I make sure they have the resources to do it. So make sure they have enough people, make sure they have the right tools, and make sure that they are actually employed to get in hours and things like that. What I do is I set up the space for the first responders. So I make sure that, this is not my exact role, but something in that regard would be to make sure that the ambulances, they call it wall time. So when an ambulance gets to an emergency department, that they don't have to wait an hour before a doctor is available to see the patient. So I make sure that there are enough doctors and nurses so the ambulance can go straight, can pull up, get out, and be seen by a doctor right away.
That's crucial.
Yeah, it's fruitful. It's an amazing experience every day, I gotta tell you.
And so I know at the bottom, right, in the comment, I pinned Mlezi, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Health. So people need to follow that page, right? And Kwame talked about he has a business competition and a pitch that he's doing, and the voting starts tomorrow at noon, and it's contingent on everybody voting, right? So we need people to click on the link in his bio tomorrow at noon and vote. But I want you to talk about it, because I know we only have 20 minutes left, but just in case we lose some people, I want you to talk about that competition and what it's about and how people can support you.
Absolutely. UC Davis has a business competition, companies all over the world. There were 113 this year, and we made it to the final 16 businesses. We're the only black founders, and what our company does is we provide food, medical services, and medical goods like toiletries and walkers, things like that, to elderly people at home so that they can stay home for longer and avoid nursing homes. For the first year, since it's virtual, you have a People's Choice Award, and it's strictly based on votes. So the more people who vote for us this year for the People's Choice Award, the more likely we are to win. And our startup will win $10,000, and we would use that to select a geriatric doctor. So a geriatric doctor is a doctor for elderly people. We're going to focus on geriatric doctors who are in disenfranchised areas or have large population of minority patients, and we're going to offer it to their patients so that they can stay healthy for longer.
I love that.
So yeah.
And please, guys, tomorrow at noon, either go to Kwame's profile or Mlezi Health, and in his bio, he's gonna have the link to vote. I think this is crucial. And we also got a question too, Kwame, from Kalia. It says, from your perspective, why is there still a stark difference in available resources with health systems in underprivileged communities? What needs to be done to ensure access moving forward?
There are so many things. Um, the few big ones would be preventative care. Um, so doing things, creating things, putting things in the community that teaches people how to be healthy before they get sick. So one big one is teaching about food, for instance. Um, it's important to begin to teach people that, a piece of puff or Harold's is delicious, but, you have to pair that with enough water and fruits and vegetables and things like that, because we typically don't really get involved in our healthcare until we already had diabetes or hypertension and things like that.
Hmm. I love that. And what other, and I know you sent me a few messages before this live, and you sent me a ton of links that I'm going to add to the YouTube after this on the Be Great YouTube. But what other programs or opportunities can people take advantage of if they want to follow your footsteps or just get into healthcare in general?
Yeah, I hear people ask me a lot about getting into healthcare, especially when they already have a degree.
Hmm.
So I always recommend there are a lot of ways you can do that. But especially if you're considering any kind of nursing, I always recommend direct entry nurse practitioner programs. And that's because, so you got direct entry nurse, registered nurse. You
Hmm.
got direct entry master of nursing science, and you got a direct entry nurse practitioner. And I recommend a nurse practitioner, one, because nurse practitioners make more money. You start there. If you're gonna do it, you get the most out of it, most bang for your buck. And if you're a nurse practitioner, you can also be a nurse. So that program, some are 2, some are 3 years. But if you ever, when you get there, you have the flexibility. If you want to go be a leader, you can. If you want to open your own practice, you can do that, or you can be a nurse. But
Hmm.
if you just get the MSN or just get the nurse, the BSN or the RN, then you can't be a nurse practitioner. You have to go back to school to do that.
Got it. Got it. Got it. We got another question, but I think I passed it up. How has quarantine, how has that affected your career on the business side with setting things up? Has it made it like busier?
No, actually, for a lot of hospitals, so our hospital had one of the highest at the time, one of the highest surges in COVID patients early on. But it was a small number of what the general hospital would typically have. So typically the
Hmm.
hospital might have, 300 patients, let's say. So since we stopped elective surgeries and we stopped a lot of things that weren't pretty much anything that wasn't life threatening, we stopped it. So that caused us to close a lot of departments and things like that. What's actually unique that I'm finding now as we begin to open things back up slowly, of course, is that our system and my career, there's a much bigger focus on technology. So one example
Hmm.
is we used to see, let's say, for example, I'm not sure the exact number. Let's say we saw 1,000 patients in our doctor's offices every day in person. Well, now we switched it up, and now we see 1,000 patients during telemedicine electronically now, since we're not open. So now we're like, do we ever need to really open that many? And I think it's interesting to see the technology come into play.
That's awesome because you're showing different career paths in healthcare, right? There's technology, there's a business side. I'm sure there's tons of ways to like get into healthcare, right? You don't just have to be a doctor or a nurse to get into the healthcare industry.
Yeah, and shouts to Byron, my co-founder. He said telehealth is the future and the present. That's right. And really, what sparked our startup was when my grandmother got sick in 2017. Before that, she was like super athletic. She like jump rope like Muhammad Ali, and she was like 70. It was crazy. And but she had, yeah, it was. But she had a degenerative disease that kind of overnight she became debilitated and was wheelchair bound. And we found out how incredibly hard it was for us, like my family, to get her the things that she needed. You know, my mom and granddad and my aunt all working together to try to make sure that she has everything and, you know, everything moves smoothly. And that's really what sparked the idea for Mlezi, because there are three people that are completely capable of taking care of her, and it was a struggle for them. So when we created Mlezi, we thought about how many people have, you know, get sick and have three people who can just take care of them and make sure everything is done right away. And what we're doing is we're actually delivering the food that they need. We're delivering their toiletries. We can have someone come clean their house, cut the grass, all those things just for an affordable membership, because the people who tend to really don't have it are people who are disenfranchised, can't really afford it. So we create user technology to make it available to all those people.
Wow. And when you have this startup, whether, you know, if you win or not, this will continue, right? This is going to happen.
Oh yeah. We're in talks with residential care and independent living facilities. We're moving regardless of the competition, but it's definitely something big for us to advance even faster.
Got it. And we got a comment too that says, from Kalia, says, "I'm so proud of you and happy to witness your career trajectory."
Oh, I appreciate Kalia. Actually, one of my friends, one of my bros commented earlier, Mike Samuel. She's actually the reason we met. So I was thinking about going to law school, and her talked about it, and she gave me insight to this. I think it was like a week program at John Marshall to just prepare you to, you know, go into law school. And it was for minorities, and we did it. It was incredible. It definitely got me prepared, and met one of my best bros and a lot of people that I'm still connected with, and just really doing great in the world, and just a great experience. So thank you.
It's funny how you meet one person and one person literally changes the trajectory or the path of like literally your whole career, right? You meet one person and you get into a different conference or a different circle, and then you meet one person and it's like you got this job, and then it's like up.
Yep, that's true. That's exactly how it happens.
What advice would you have for people who want to pursue, you know, healthcare in general, and if they're if they're a minority?
I say start with the clinical space. So whether that means be a nurse, be a pharmacist, whatever, the future in healthcare, hospitals and health systems, and I'm talking about more healthcare provision. So that's not including insurance and pharmacy. My lane is really healthcare provision, hospitals, doctor's office, those types of things. In the future, and it's already started. So you look at Mayo Clinic, you look at the Cleveland Clinic, you look at Johns Hopkins. In some of those places, you literally have to be a nurse or a doctor or something like that. And in some of those places, you just won't get the job if you're not a nurse or a doctor. So in order to guarantee, one, you have a fallback plan, and guarantee that you're going to be able to grow. Because what I always tell people, when you go into any field, look at the person who is the president of whatever you're doing, or the vice president of whatever you're doing. What are their credentials? If you go into a position, let's say project management at a hospital, but the vice president of project management is a nurse, and you got to be a nurse, and you're not a nurse, then you either need to go be a nurse or switch lanes, because you're going to get all this experience and reach a ceiling.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. And who has influenced you in your life, right, to get to where you are now? Who are like your biggest mentors?
My mom and my late grandmother, definitely, just day in and day out, talking to me, speaking power into me, showing me love and showing me how to love. It's just been incredible because it's not all about work. You got to be a whole person. And they really made sure that I didn't forget that, you know. Dr. D was an incredible influence in me in college. Just all the talks and arguments. Oh, we argued as much as we talked, but it was like arguments and really helping to understand, why we do things, should do things, and shouldn't do things. It was just incredible. Especially now as I get older, I see what he was saying. I mentioned famous Holbert, my football coach. He just told us so many things and prepared us in a way that we never could have imagined how well he prepared us, and me specifically to just excel in life. I'm like, I don't want to forget people. Those are people on my mind. I'm sure I'm gonna think of more people as I go, but those are definitely some people from different sections of my life and as I grew.
It might be overlapping to what I'm about to ask, but I like to wrap up the lives by asking who is being great in your life, right? Like who's, again, it could be influencing you, but also who's just like holding it down, or who you see that it could be a peer, somebody older or younger that's just like doing great in their own lane right now. And it's not just one person. You can shout out multiple people, but we just like to know who's being great so we can like highlight them as well. And we know that birds flock together. Birds of a feather flock together.
That's tough. Cause that's true, because I have such an incredible community of people. Like from Mlezi in the competition, I sent out an email to people just to get their feedback, and there are so many people that just had so much support. So I'm like, I'm hesitating to see if I even want to try to name everybody, because I'm inevitably going to forget people. Somebody I talked about already, Dr. Teddy Harper. I'm just excited because I got to see it come full circle back at SIU when he was just starting with the med prep program to be an emergency physician in St. Louis at one of our business trauma centers. Is just incredible to see. All of my law school lawyer colleagues, I'm not even going to try to name all of y'all because those are some of my best friends in life, and so many people doing such great things. Shouts to the people that's graduating this year. Angela. Really start from the very beginning and go through all their trials. So just so many people getting to see them. And my friends, I was just talking to Byron, thinking about back before when he was reading, what book was he reading? It was something about the 20s. It was a book about what to do in your 20s. And he read it and ran with it and moved to Dallas. And now he's going crazy in the healthcare tech space. And that's part of the reason why I'm glad he joined us as a co-founder, because he knows all the things that I don't know. There's someone else I was just thinking about. Shouts to my brother John. Just finished his first year in the MBA program at Howard, going crazy. Super excited, super proud. He's doing doing an internship at a major technology company in the country. There's people like these guys. Mike just got into Arizona State law school, just transferred. Shouts to him. Tiffany Jones, major lawyer. I met her in St. Louis when she was a mentor. Now we're friends. She did exactly what she said she wanted to do. Now she's working in law firms with venture capitalists out here in San Francisco, going crazy. I need to borrow like $10 from her or something because she's just doing it so big. Shouts to you, always dropping knowledge. We don't talk that much, but every time I talk, I learn something new, and you teach me about a new path. Just so many people. I can't even name everybody. Oh, I got some more people. Wait a second. I got one person. Kendrick, my bro, Kendrick Body. Man, I'm just so proud. One of my best friends, my oldest friends. Going from where we came from. We got to college because we played sports. We didn't really know what we were doing. But to see him get into the real estate game, to see him go out and start buying semi trucks and just being just the great man he's developed into, just incredible. I'm gonna stop, but I know it's so many people. Shouts to everybody in Nasi. It's too many of y'all to name. And thank you for all the support and helping develop the startup.
See, it's just showing, Kwame, right? That like you have so many people around you who are being successful, right? So inevitably it's gonna make you level up, right? Because all your friends are doing great things and they're so passionate about it. So for you, you're just like, oh, okay, cool, me too.
Right. Something though, I used to talk to people a lot that especially in the beginning, that's a choice. You know, you got to choose where you spend your time and who you spend your time with. I think a lot of people, you look at, who we grew up with or who we were around and who's the most fun. And those are important too. Don't get me wrong. You got to be a well-rounded person, but it's really, really important to really decide where you want to put your time because, like you said, it's going to rub off on you. It's froze for a second.
Can you hear me now?
If you said something, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. How can people follow you and like if they want to reach out to you about stuff in healthcare or just about the voting tomorrow, right? Where can people go to just reach out and support?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. Also, you can follow. It's actually we own Mlezi Health at IG page, so you can follow that too. But the one that's more active is Mlezi_Health. Just we're still working through it. And you can reach out to me any way that you. Instagram is probably the easiest thing because we're on Instagram Live. But feel free to ask any kinds of questions. You inspire me to make more content about things like how to develop in this career field. Because I realize it's a lot of knowledge that we have that we don't even think to share and for so many other people to learn from. So I'm definitely going to take that and run with it.
I love that. Well, I really appreciate you, Kwame, for even being so open, right? And talking about your journey from start to finish, even when you were younger, right? As somebody said earlier, like I think the hurdles and difficulties help with the success, right? And that doesn't, someone yesterday, Jamisa was talking about like failure is not, like not trying, right? Or failure is not trying, but like as long as if you're learning from things, right, and you're making mistakes, that's the best way to go. And finding mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And being diligent and surrounding yourself with the right people. You're dropping awesome gems just talking about your story and what people can do. So I'll post this to YouTube after and the IG page, and I'll also add the links that you sent me. So if you guys don't have the link, or I would just follow Kwame. But if not, I'll post a link to vote tomorrow at noon for his competition and all the other programs that he listed as well. But I really appreciate you. I'm glad I had you to round out my IG Live series. This is awesome, Kwame.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, as always.
Oh, wait, hold on. We have one more question and we got a minute remaining. So what does Mlezi stand for?
Oh, Mlezi is the Swahili word for caregiver or nurse. And we created it because in those dialects, it takes a community the community cares for the elderly. And with our technology, we see that as bringing the community to them.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for the last question too. And thank you guys for staying tuned in, especially for the whole hour. We got over 300 people on the live. That is amazing. Testament that we have great people, especially you, Kwame, that people want to learn from you and hear about you and see what you have to share. So thank you guys so much for all your questions, all the love. It is much appreciated. And I'll talk to you, or actually I'll just end up texting you, Kwame, but thank you guys.
Yeah.
And see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.